Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Moran.
And I'm Olga Villaverde.
Welcome to The Balancing Act. Lots to get to.
That's right. Budgets simplified. We got an app for that.
Plus, saving money on surgery.
And there's still time to shape up for summer. Do it with tasty salads.
Love that. And it's almost time to hit the road with kids in tow. We have some tips.
We can use those for sure. And here's one way to keep them happy. How? Feed them pizza.
Me too.
With a twist. And it all starts
right now. A recent survey found that 70% of Americans are currently worried about their personal finances, but yet 60% of us continue to spend without a budget. Of course, we all could learn to save money. And here to show us how to budget is Chi-Yin Yu from the app company Good Budget. We are so glad you're on the show today.
Thanks.
My husband is so glad you're on the show today.
Aren't all our husbands happy about that?
Now, why is it just so hard to keep a budget?
It's tough. As a mom of two, I know it can be hard to keep a family of four on a budget. You got to get groceries, clothes for the kids, and all of those everyday expenses that can very quickly get in the way of our long-term goals, stuff like paying down debt and saving for retirement. The thing is, budgets are actually what help us keep all of that on track.
Now, I think you brought some envelopes that are going to drive home the point about the necessity of keeping a budget, right?
That's right.
Explain.
So these envelopes, they represent a super old school form of budgeting called envelope budgeting that our grandmothers used to do.
My grandmother, yes.
Yes?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Before plastic credit cards existed. So she would go to the bank, take out cash, put some in an envelope for savings, some for groceries, and some for fun. And that way she would have planned to save before she went out and spent on groceries and fun. Now, then she'd take this to the store, buy what she needs, same thing for fun, and when the money was gone, stop spending. Now, who carries cash these days, right?
Not me.
But you carry your phone everywhere you go.
Everywhere.
So Good Budget is an app that takes all of this envelope budgeting and puts it on our phones. So I have it on my iPhone, my husband has it on his Android, and that way we can always stay on track, no more arguments about what's left.
Okay, my husband is going to make me put Good Budget on my iPhone as I leave the set right now.
You should beat him to it.
I'll beat him to it. It's such a great idea. You know, and it just sounds like that's something that helps keep everybody on track, and then you don't have those conflicts, right?
Exactly, and that way our relationships can be just a bit more peaceful.
I love that. And where can our viewers go to find out more?
Go to goodbudget.com.
Okay, I'm going there right now, and I'll send Rob there too. All right, that's goodbudget.com or our website, thebalancingact.com.
If you're planning to jet set out of the U.S. to save money on surgery or medical procedures, you're not alone. In fact, increasing numbers of people are doing the same thing. It's called medical tourism. And as our guest will explain this morning, you don't have to travel very far to get the same top quality surgical or dental procedures at a fraction of the cost. Meet Dr. Eric Adler of Adler Facial Plastic Surgery and Wellness Center and dentist Pedro Rodriguez of International Smile Designers, both out of San Juan, Puerto Rico. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us.
Did you like that rolling Puerto Rico?
Yeah, that's how it is. And Rodriguez.
Buenos dias. Thank you so much for being here. Gentlemen, I was reading a survey here, and I'd like to share this with you. It's out of the Medical Tourism Association. I was a little bit surprised. 69% of respondents expressed an interest in traveling overseas for medical procedures. Are you seeing that trend, Dr. Adler?
I am totally seeing in the last 20 years of being in private practice in Puerto Rico. I have, in the last 5 years, seen a very high number of people coming from New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago, visiting for different types of surgeries.
Dr. Rodriguez?
We have the same trend at the dental office, a lot of people coming from the States looking for, treatment in Puerto Rico.
So if somebody's thinking of going to Puerto Rico, which happens to be part of this country, of course, because it is part of this country, and not too far for that matter, what should one consider when, let's say, taking on a cosmetic procedure? Well,
I believe that the most important thing is selecting the right person to do your procedure. Second, after that, is making sure that the person is working in a prepared environment. So the clinic, the consultation area has to be impeccable. And I think that another thing that patients need to look at is the recovery time for whatever given procedure they're going to have.
And something, doctor, that I think our viewers are not aware of is doctors like yourself in Puerto Rico have to abide by the same healthcare standards as doctors, let's say, in New York, for that matter.
Yeah, definitely. We have the same healthcare and legal standards. So, like in my case, in dentistry, all dentists in Puerto Rico have to be US board certified. So it's the same preparation. So the treatment you will receive by a doctor in the mainland or in Puerto Rico is the same.
And Dr. Adler, speaking of New York, you were schooled there.
Yeah, I went to medical school in New York. Then I did my specialty training at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. And when I went to Puerto Rico years later, I had double board certification. So not everybody has board certification in the States or in Puerto Rico, but it's another nice thing to have, which means you went an extra step in your education process.
So let's talk about some of the most common dental procedures that patients are doing in Puerto Rico and kind of compare apples to apples, if you will. What are you doing there, and compare the costs? Okay,
well, let's say probably the most sick treatment is the dental implants. So in the mainland will be probably between $2,500 to $3,000 per implant. Mm-hmm. In Puerto Rico, we'll go from $1,100 to $1,200, per implant. Is probably 40–60% the cost.
That's huge.
And when you multiply that times 3 or 4 implants, because sometimes people need more, that's a good amount of money.
That's a lot of change right there. What about cosmetic surgery, Dr.
When we
Adler?
talk about my patients that come from the mainland, mainly are coming for hair transplants. In Los Angeles, maybe they can pay for 3,000 grafts like $30–40,000. Wow. In San Juan, Puerto Rico, we're looking at 10 to 15. In New York, maybe a rhinoplasty in New York is like 15–20,000.
That's a nose job?
A nose job. In San Juan, Puerto Rico is between $7,500 and $10,000. So we're talking about sometimes more than 50% savings.
What about a facelift? I'm just curious.
A facelift in LA, I have heard people charging as high as $50,000–$60,000, and in New York maybe $25–$30,000. In San Juan, Puerto Rico, between 12 and 15.
And again, top-notch quality care from a top-notch quality doctor.
That's right.
Same equipment, same treatment, just half price.
Something I think is important to note also is the fact that, again, it's not too far. It is part of this country again. You don't need a passport to get there. And I'm just going to have to say that the island is beautiful and the weather is great. That has to be another plus.
Yeah, that's the, it has been studied, that being in a tropical ambience, no stress, so it's good for healing, right?
Completely. Many studies have been put out and they have looked at wound healing. And people with no stress in a relaxed environment heal, maybe 30–40% quicker.
Well, I'm getting so convinced I might be considering my facelift in the future with Dr. Adler.
We'll be waiting for you.
Just go.
We'll be waiting.
But I don't think you need much. So.
Thank you, doctor. So sweet you are.
So you just go to Puerto Rico, have your surgery or your dental treatment done, and have a vacation. That's the best.
We go to Bayamon every year.
That's nice.
Very nice area.
So we love Puerto Rico. Doctor, for our viewers out there who'd like more information, what's the website?
They can visit our website. It's stylehealthcarepuertorico.com.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
I'll be calling you maybe in about 10 years.
I don't know. Call me in 5 and I'll let you know, but just kidding. You'll be fine. You're going to be fine.
Thank you, Dr. Adler. Oh my gosh, I love honesty. And of course, if you'd like more information, again, the website, starhealthcarepuertorico.com. And remember to visit our website, thebalancingact.com. He's looking at my neck. I can see it. Summer is just around the corner, so it's time to start thinking about sensational summer salads. And with so many varieties of greens and toppings available today, salad now competes for the spot for main entree. Our guest, food scientist Kelly Roskam of Rothbury Farms, has some great ideas on making you a salad connoisseur. Good morning.
Good morning, Olga.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, when it comes to food, anybody is invited on the show. And when it comes to food, I always want to do it. So we're going to talk about salads. My favorite. You like salads?
They're a staple. They're great for everyone, and it's refreshing. That's what I love about a salad.
When we're by the pool, it's one thing that my girls always ask for, Caesar salad. And I laugh because I used to always eat iceberg, right? This is the iceberg one.
It is the iceberg.
This used to be like the go-to before all the other ones started coming.
That's true. And right here, it's an iceberg wedge, and they're still popular. It's a great lettuce. So, and I put some bacon on there and blue cheese, really whatever dressing you prefer. goes great.
But we've come a long way. Now there's spinach. Now there's, help me out here, arugula.
Kale. Kale's really popular.
So it's no longer iceberg, or combining all of them for that matter.
You know, mixture I think is the way to go because you get a lot of variety. Each green has their own unique quality that they're bringing to the plate. So.
And it makes it pretty as well.
Yes.
Now for our viewers out there, I don't even know if they know that May is National Salad Month, and that's what we're talking about this. Now I know you have a few more salads to talk about, but this one is gorgeous. What's this?
That's our panzanella salad. It's a Italian bread salad. And the key factor there is Rothbury Farms Parmigiano croutons.
And that's the one you're going to cook up for us this morning?
Yes, it is.
Not really cook up, but let's just say put it together. All right, let's do so. Can I help you?
Yeah, of course.
All right, so what did you add?
First, let's start with tomatoes, if you don't mind moving those out of the way.
These, which I will say that our chef who brought these actually grew them in his backyard, and we do appreciate that.
Yes, they're beautiful.
Red and yellow tomatoes, love that. Lots of vitamins, protein there.
And this you can kind of get a little crazy, as much as you'd like to put in there.
I'll put the whole thing there. Come on, just tickle my fancy here. I got to feed my crew. They're very, very good people, and I love them dearly. Okay, so we got the tomatoes in.
Tomatoes, and then a little onion.
Okay, red onions.
And who doesn't love cucumber?
Cucumbers are good. My daughter would tell you no, but it's okay. We can pick them out. We're good.
And then a little bell pepper.
Bell pepper.
You can play with that, red or green.
Or orange, okay. Colorful. This is very pretty for a summer day.
Yes, and then, of course, Rothbury Farms croutons.
Okay, so croutons in this. Why?
Well, these right here, they are from our French bread gourmet line. So it has a ton of seasoning on it. And this has a nice light crunch to it.
Okay, can I try one? I shouldn't do this.
I suppose.
I'm so sorry. Okay, keep putting more croutons. Very crunchy. Very tasty. Adds that kick.
And then we're gonna add a little bit of olive oil and a red wine vinaigrette.
Okay, here's the vinegar. And you also brought some herbs.
I did.
Okay.
So we've got thyme there.
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll put the thyme.
Yeah.
I love that. What about this?
A little parsley.
Okay, easy. Oh, and chives.
Chives.
Gotta have that.
Go crazy.
And then you just mix it all up? And the kids can help you at home.
They can. This is a great salad for your kids to make with you.
And you like that crunch behind it?
Oh yeah. The crunch is, what's a salad without some crunch?
Absolutely. And a lot of people will say, well, you know, I'm on a diet. I don't want to use croutons. But, you know, they're really not that bad.
Not at all. That's no excuse.
No excuse at all.
It's actually probably less than 30 calories, right around 30.
And I know
serving.
you have other croutons over there. So here, I'll mix this and you tell me about that spinach salad over there.
Right, right here on the spinach salad, we have our Texas toast crouton.
Ooh,
and that
Texas toast.
packs a big crunch.
Can I try one?
May.
I like to eat. Look how she brings me the plate and she doesn't grab it for me. That is so sweet. These are really the crunchy ones. I've tried these before. Oh, wow.
I love them.
Fabulous. And that over there?
This right here is our cheese garlic. So powerful kick of garlic and a really nice crunch on these.
And you know, a lot of people who love to cook, including myself, will say, you know, a crouton is a crouton, but you know, no, it's not.
No, not true at all. With ours, we do a twice bake process. So we send them through a dryer, and then after that, they go through and they get that nice golden brown highlight on them.
Wow. And what I also like, and I think it's important to notice, all these croutons, you don't really have to use them just for a salad. You can use them to bake on soups, right?
Soups, casseroles. I like to take our Texas toast and make a little bruschetta for your tomato and olive oil on there.
And mozzarella.
Yeah, makes a great little appetizer.
You are welcome to my home anytime. For our viewers out there who'd like more information, and I know you've got great recipes also to offer, what's the website?
RothburyFarms.com.
Did you hear that? Fabulous. Thank you so much. Come back.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, if you'd like more information, visit our website. This is so rude to talk with my mouth full, thebalancingact.com.
Welcome to my kitchen. This is Quick Bites with me, Chef Ralph Pagano. Now imagine the look on your family's faces when you serve up slices of this Ramen Noodles pizza bake. They'll be so surprised that you were able to take two of their favorites, pizza and Ramen Noodles from Marichan, and make it into one dish. Forget about it, you're gonna love it. Did you know that Marichan produces 3.6 billion packages of ramen noodle soup each year? Which means if all the noodles were strung end to end, it would go from Mars and back to Earth and back. That is officially what they call a lot of noodles. Now, check this out. I'm gonna go live with you right now with something that you never would have seen before on television. I can guarantee that. I, Ralph Pagano, is going to turn ramen noodles into pizza. You say how, I say through magic. Right here I've got 4 boxes of ramen noodles that have been cooked in boiling water. Now here's the thing with ramen noodles, it's 1, 2, 3. 1 package, 2 cups of water, 3 minutes. That's how simple it is. 1, 2, 3. I've got 2 eggs, granulated garlic, Parmesan cheese, and my ramen noodles. I'm gonna put my eggs in the bowl first with the granulated garlic, a little bit of the cheese. Gonna give that a little slide around with these tongs. Into the puddle of egg comes the ramen noodle. The rest of the Parmesan cheese. And now, to get my hands dirty, right? So give this a little mix around to make my ramen noodle pizza dreams come true. You know, the fact of the matter is, it's not that crazy. Ramen noodles, why couldn't they not be good pizza? You ever have like a penny pizza pie, right? It's delicious with the noodles on top and the marinara, Parmesan cheese. Put it all together. Let's get some toppings on top of this jammy right here. My favorite little tomato sauce going over the top. You see this? First time on television, ramen noodle becomes pizza. Slide it all around. Cheese on top. I got mushrooms on top of mine. What do you want to put on top of yours? When you pop it in the oven, it's going to come out looking just like this. You, your whole family, you're going to love it. Want to know more about ramen noodles from Marichan? Log on to thebalancingact.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And listen, if you got a crazy ramen noodle recipe, I want to see it. Send it in. This ain't grandma's pizza, baby. This is ramen pie. Remember, this is a quick bite. But chew slowly.
Now you know. Travel tips.
Mom, are we there yet?
Pack your patience, girls. We are almost there. You know, if you're a mom like me, you've probably heard that more than once. The first time it's kind of cute. After 20 times, well, you know. So today we've got smart and clever tips to keep the children busy while you are on that long road trip. Print a map from Google. Color code the route with magic markers highlighting highways and stops you plan on making. Add a treasure map component, and as certain points along the way are reached, give a toy or snack for the discovery. So it's great for teaching map skills, and it's fun too. Let them read. Books are a great source of fun, entertainment, and of course, education. You can also bring some Band-Aids and some alcohol prep pads, because kids like to play doctor. Here, girls.
Thanks, Mom.
You're welcome. And of course, color. Kids love to color in the car. Most of all, have a great time. A road trip can be a real adventure, even with happy kids along the way. Say bye-bye, girls. Bye-bye.
Mom, are we there yet?
Now you know travel tips. Sponsored by TA and Petro Stopping Centers, coast to coast. Refuel, replenish, refresh.
You know, my 4 nephews, Aiden, Dane, Caleb, and Declan, could demolish that pizza.
I'd love to watch that one day. Love the names, too. That's our show for today, but head to our Facebook page and our website, thebalancingact.com. Follow us on Twitter. We've got so much there.
Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you next time. So long.